Hello and welcome back to another episode of Bantz with Lawrencia on Lawrencia TV, a channel that celebrates ordinary people doing extraordinary things. So please subscribe, like, share, and also click on that notification bell to get notified anytime I post new content. So for today's episode, I want to ask the question, do we compete with ourselves? Do we compete with others? Or do we even have to compete at all? This discussion has been going on social media, and so many people, social media has been divided, with some people thinking they don't need to compete with anybody. Some other people feel, we need competition, healthy competition, to succeed in life. And some other people said, well, this whole rat race, of a thing. They are not interested. They just want to live their life the way they want to live it. When I started reflecting on this topic, I realized that the whole competition starts from childhood. Once you start going to school, you have to compete with your classmates. Then you go to the university, you have to compete with your course mates. Then you get a job, you have to compete with your colleagues. Then, you get, a house, or you rent a place, you have to compete with your neighbors. And then you go to church, you have to compete with your church members. There are competition everywhere you turn. Whether you want to acknowledge it or not, it is there. And social media has made it very easy for people to even compete with people they don't know, they're never going to see, they're never going to meet. They just want to impress strangers. And this has added a whole lot of different level of pressure on people, especially young adults. So, which makes me want to bring this topic and let us just talk about it. Let us reflect on the topic and, have your own answer. Have your own answer. Do you think that you have to compete with yourself, or do you think you have to compete with others? Or are you, part of the group of people that said, we're not interested in any competition? So for those people who said they want to compete with yourself, they argue that once you're competing with yourself, you set your own benchmark, you set your own rules, you set your own goals and objectives that you have to achieve based on your timeline. So there are no external factors influencing your decision, your choices, and your growth. You only need to be better than who you were yesterday. You don't have to look at any other people, because people have different journeys. So once you start looking at other people, then you lose your own self, in terms of you now think, okay, you have to do what other people are doing instead of following your own goals and objective. The other people said, well, we need competition, we need healthy competition to develop in life. We need to compete with people in order to understand how to improve ourselves better. They argue that no matter how you want to look at it, life is a competition. Before you get a job, during the interview, you're competing with other candidates to get that job. So you need to be able to compete in order to get ahead of other people. They said healthy competition is good. You need to be able to understand the other people, what they are doing, for you to be able to improve on yourself. Now, the other parties, the third group of people said, well, we don't need to compete with anybody. We just want to live our lives. We just want to improve on ourselves at our own rate. We're not even competing with ourselves, because once you start competing with who you are, then you have a problem. Maybe you've set a certain level of benchmark for yourself, and maybe that was your peak. And if you're trying to compete with that, then you might have problems. So they said they are not interested in any competition. They just want to live their life the way they see it. Competition, I have never really been the type to compete with anybody. And looking back, where that stems from was from my primary level, because these are your formative years. These are the years that would determine the kind of person you are. I realized that during my primary education, we never had like first position, second position, third position, but we had like a pool of people who had excellence. We had a pool of people who are very good. We had a pool of people who are good. So it was no longer, we were not fighting for like a first position. So what we did was compare according to subjects. So I might be very good in science and somebody is very good in maths. This other person is very good in English. So we know the particular student we need to go to for maybe, you see, I scored 98% in primary science and I was the best student in primary science. So somebody who probably had an excellent result but is lacking in primary science can easily come to me and say, can you explain X, Y, and Z? I might have a very good result and somebody with good results might be the best in maths. And then I have to go to that person to ask questions based on maybe whatever maths problem I have. So it made it very easy for people to learn from each other. So it was not a competition. It was just, basically knowing your weak points and understanding that, okay, this person is very good at this. Let me ask them questions so that they can help me improve on my weakness. So it was never competition. I think that has shaped my life in the sense that I don't have to compete with anybody, because you might be very good in something and I might be very good in something else. I don't have to compete with you. And that has been a very life-changing skill that I learned from that young age. I always know that there are some people that are better than myself. There are some people that I am better than. There are some people, no matter the level they are, I can learn from. So I think the whole competition thing starts from a child's formative years. If your child bring the second position result and you're telling that child it is somebody that gave birth to the person that carried first, so why are you not in the first position? That is competition. So we learn to compete at a very young age and we carry that all through adult life. I told myself I don't need to compete with anybody. I just have to better myself. I just have to improve on myself on a daily basis at my own timeline. I don't need external pressure to put pressure on me to do that. Until I was watching a documentary. I watched this documentary about the Boeing Max that crashed in 2018 and 2019. So Boeing kind of dominated the aircraft industry. They were the ones producing. Everybody loved them because they put quality first. They set the benchmark. They were the best in what they do. They had people, quality control. They had everything set in place. They felt the competition is within themselves. They don't have to compete with any other person. So what happened was the first competition that Boeing had, they panicked. They didn't know what to do. They wanted to just chuck something out there that is fuel efficient and to get back all the customers that they had. So they put something out there that was not safe just because they panicked with the first competition that they had, and we all know how that turned out. So the reality is competition is good, especially when you're providing goods or services. Now, competition within yourself, self-improvement, or self-care, that you don't need to compete with people. You just have to do that for yourself. We all are providing goods and services one way or the other. For you to effectively do that, you need to have at least some level of competitive advantage. You need to know the market, you need to know your customers, you need to know your suppliers, you need to know what they want and what they like and what they are asking for, so that you can be able to provide those things for them and have, a very good competitive advantage. I think for me, it's not really about competition. It's not about competing or not competing with people. It's about benchmarking whatever you're doing with somebody, a successful person, or somebody who has not really been that successful in that aspect, and ask questions, because why are you competing? If you know that, okay, I am competing because of this, then you have to benchmark your process with that person's process, and you're not really copying the end product. So we all have to understand that competition is good, benchmarking is good, understanding processes and framework is good, and putting those framework in place to improve on ourselves is the best way to go about it. So in summary, regardless of whether you want to compete, regardless of whether you want to benchmark, regardless of whether you want to copy processes or framework of other people to apply to yourself, the best thing is to ensure that you are improving yourself. You are improving on a daily basis. You are making sure that you're better than what you were yesterday, regardless of how little that step is. Because remember that people are at different points in their life. You might want to copy somebody that is in the later stage in life and you're just starting, so that would not work. Just ensure that you're improving yourself and that you are also looking at other people. Make sure that you're looking at what other people are doing and trying to see how they got there. Ask questions, set your goals, and make sure that you're improving on those goals that you set, and reward yourself. Life is too short. Life is too short to be competing with anybody. Life is too short to be comparing your life with anybody's life. I know social media has made it very easy for people to compete, for people to compare, but we have a choice to tell ourselves that all we want to do is to improve ourselves. Whether we want to compete, whether we are not competing, whether we choose to compete with anybody, let us have self-confidence. Let us be self-aware of our self-confidence, because if you have self-confidence and you're not even aware of it, it's not about being cocky, but just knowing that even if somebody is telling you you are not at this stage, you are confident enough in your ability, you're confident enough with the stage that you are to just look at that person and ignore them. So let us have self-confidence. Let us compete externally when it's required. Let us compete internally when it's required. And let us ensure that we choose not to compete when competition is not necessary. If we do this, we're going to be happy. If we take away unnecessary competition from our lives, we all are going to live a very happy life. So thank you very much for watching today's episode. And please leave your comments below. I know this is my opinion. So if you have a different opinion from mine, I am happy to read it. Please send me an email at admin@ddelaurencetv.com. Or you can leave me a comment in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your feelings. Let me know if you're competitive, and if you're not, why. Thank you very much, and see you same time next week. Bye-bye.